Obviously, that's not going to work every single time. And there are going to be plenty of instances where you're going to, and I can already see the comments down there in the comment section down below. Yeah, but what about this, Charlie? It instantly beats your team. I can't believe you suggest such a bad team. I get that a lot, and that's fine. But you got to remember these important things.
It's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
What is up, heroes of Dominion? My name is Charlie. This is Hero War Central, and in this video I want to talk about Ishmael and ways to counter him. Now on my server we're seeing a lot more Ishmaels than Dante's, and in Clash of Worlds we're starting to see that as well. We're starting to see whole emplacements with just nothing but Ishmael variant teams. Now this one is a bad example because there's still a lot of Dante's in here. I just don't think that he's as good as he used to be. Of course you're going to see a ton of Dante's in the shooting range, but in the Bastion, for example, you're going to see a lot of Ishmaels. It's kind of funny that there's a lot of Kark and Yasmins on this one. Look, I love how whenever guilds do this right here, because like once you figure this one team out, then the whole fortification just falls over. Because I don't know what they think that's going to happen here. I guess they just hoping that other guilds don't have some of the same heroes leveled up. I don't know. Anyway, whenever you're taking a look at a hero like Ishmael, or any hero for that matter, you want to take a look at the things that makes them dangerous. And there is 5 heroes on a team. Yes, there absolutely is. The team makeup is going to make a difference, but in a lot of cases with Ishmael, it does not. Ishmael is a physical attacker. He's characterized by high damage. He has vampirism, so he can self-heal. He has a way to dodge via his ascension skills. When the phantom skill is active, Ishmael dodges both physical and magic attacks. Of course, his green ability at base allows him to dodge for a good chunk of time. And of course, he is a critical hit hero. Now again, a lot of physical damage, a lot of upfront damage. Unless you add in a hero like Sebastian to add that pure damage to him, he's very, very one-sided. He just does physical damage. So what is the first way that we can use to counter such a hero? And that is armor artifacts. And it's kind of boring and it's kind of obvious, but it's absolutely worth discussing. You have most tanks having armor artifacts. When I say most, a lot of the popular tanks like Aurora, Galahad, and a couple of others, they don't use armor artifacts, but the majority of them do. You have other heroes that provide armor artifacts. One of the biggest ways to hard counter Ishmael is actually Astrid and Lucas. Not only do they provide an armor artifact, but they also have this ability that they send their pet forward, Lucas, and Lucas doesn't take damage the way a traditional hero does. Lucas reduces his rage on whenever he receives damage, and so it doesn't matter how big the hit is. Lucas can tank a lot of Ishmael's attacks, and the problem with that is not a lot of people level up Astrid and Lucas. This video isn't telling you to level up Astrid and Lucas, though if you did, you would have a much stronger chance against most Ishmael fights on your server and in Clash of Worlds. But the point that I'm trying to make, and by the way, the other super popular hero that just about everybody is going to have leveled up as a contrast to Astrid and Lucas is Martha. Martha has that armor artifact, one of the only healer heroes to have a armor artifact. So what do we have here? We have a physical damage dealer that only really attacks the front line and doesn't really provide much in the way of variety. He does have some crowd control in the form of stuns via, I think, Storm Blades. Yeah, every third hit stuns the opponent. So there is some variety in the way that he attacks, but throw some armor on your team, just extra armor on your team, and you're gonna be great. Now, as far as Ishmael teams that you're gonna see, there are 3 main varieties. The first one that I'm gonna show you here is one that's focused on building up Ishmael. And you can see here that you have a pretty traditional Ishmael team that you might see a lot of. You have Nebula and Sebastian. Both of these are support heroes. Not only is Nebula good at boosting damage output of her allies, Sebastian adds pure damage to critical hit teams, but you also have the ability to dodge incoming crowd control from your attacking teams with Sebastian, with Ode to Serenity. So this team is really built to keep Ishmael up and to allow him to do the most damage possible. You use Rufus not only as an Iris counter. Obviously, Rufus is the best tank against Iris, although he's hard countered by Morgan and Jet and a couple of others. But you also use Rufus to protect Ishmael versus one of his weaknesses, and that's magic damage. All right, so another counter to Ishmael is going to be magic damage. He, as a warrior, has lower magic defense than a lot of the other styles of damage dealers though he does have that ascension ability to dodge magic attacks, having Rufus is just a good idea. Rufus is just a great tank all around. Nebula, Sebastian, Martha, part of the LOLosh team. You're going to see a team like this very, very frequently. Now, take a look at the attacking team here. You have Astaroth with an armor artifact. You have Martha with an armor artifact. And then you have a couple of damage dealers and one of the key components that we're going to talk about in just a second. I want you to take a quick look back at what we discussed with Ishmael. The things that he does best is attacking the front line with high damage output. Does anybody on the defensive team here target Martha? And that's really a no. There are some abilities that might splash onto Martha. And why is that important? Well, Martha's teapot is what generates the majority of her healing. She does do a lot of healing without the teapot, but it's actually self-healing. The healing brew, while the totem is active, the ally with the least health now receives additional healing. The blue ability Tea Party conjures a totem in front of the character that restores allies' health. Enemies can't target, but it can take AoE damage. So the Tea Party totem thing doesn't have a ton of health. So anything that just splash damages onto that totem is going to break it, which is going to dramatically reduce Martha's healing output. That's why when you see Martha on the enemy team, you're better off using an area of effect damage dealer than using specific damage dealers, right? So taking a look back at this team, you can see that there really isn't anything on defense that's going to target that Martha. Now, before we move on to the second style of team, I want to show you what team that you're going to want to try more often than not, all right? And it's a very familiar looking team, and that is a team that's going to look something like this team right here. And really, the tank is interchangeable in the example I'm about to mention, but this team right here, Morgan, Heidi, Iris, and Dorian, can beat just about every single Dante variant that exists. Every single one, with the exception of very few instances, and you could easily swap heroes in and out to take care of those. But this is a team that I would recommend everybody have leveled up if you see a lot of Dantes. It's just a very, very strong team against a lot of the meta, and specifically against Dante. But what do we know? We know that Dorian is really, really bad at healing the tank, all right? Dorian's healing is from an aura around him. Right? And he doesn't provide that armor artifact. So we drop Dorian for Martha, who you're probably leveling up for the Osh team anyway, right? And suddenly you have a double armor artifact. You have a nice little core of damage deal in a second. And this is very important. These two right here are very important. And I'll show you why when we toggle back over to this fight. You can see here that this is the team that I have set up here. You have a thick tank, you have a couple of damage dealers, and you got a great healer. But Morgan here, you think Morgan is here for Rufus, but that's actually not the case. As we play this fight, I'm going to show you some instances of why Morgan is actually a nice little soft counter to Ishmael. The thing that we need to pay attention to here is killing enemies behind Ishmael. Whenever an enemy behind Ishmael dies, their body or their soul or whatever is going to get resurrected by Morgan into a baby skeleton. This is going to cause Ishmael to turn and fight that skeleton instead of attacking your team. So you have a double armor artifact to reduce incoming damage. You have a couple of damage dealers that are going to target you can see that Heidi's ult is a flower that does pure damage to the center of the enemy team. And then you have Iris, who does area of effect physical damage to everybody on the enemy team, which is going to knock over Martha's teapot. So the amount of healing that's going out is going to go down. You're going to see that because it's pure damage, Nebula will not be able to dodge it. She's going to go down, Sebastian's going to go down, and two little baby skeletons are going to spawn in their place. And this is going to cause Ishmael to turn in just a second, and fight them instead. See, there he goes. So now Ishmael is not targeting your team at all. Iris has taken out the tank. Heidi has taken out the people in the mid row. Morgan has made sure that Rufus doesn't revive. And now it's just a matter of time until the end of the fight. Okay, so this is the first style of Ishmael team that I discussed. That style of team that just supports Ishmael's damage, tries to keep him alive. That is the plan with that style of team. Now, the second style of team that you're going to see a lot of, and you might say, well, Charlie, why don't we bring area of effect damage to knock over Martha's teapot? Well, it's a great question. This is the second style of team that you're going to see. A team that doesn't necessarily support Ishmael, but provides a bit more of a rounded defense, not just a specific strategy to be on defense, like I said, keeping Ishmael up with the most damage possible. You have just general purpose good heroes in here that do area of effect damage. In this case, we're using Iris. Okay, so whenever you're going up against Iris, you can use the same exact team, but you have to swap the pet on Astaroth. You have to put Axel on Astaroth. This will allow him to stay alive just a little bit longer, long enough for Martha to keep him alive, long enough for your team to kill the opposing team, enough of the opposing team that the threat of Iris by herself becomes negligent. So let's take a quick look at some of these victories here. You can see here that I have a very, very high win rate against this team, and we're gonna run the footage right here. Same kind of strategy that we're dealing with. We've got Morgan, Heidi, Iris, and Martha. Again, the key here is to have the midline of the enemy team, in this case you have Celeste and Iris, have them die early as quickly as possible so that you can get Morgan babies up so Ishmael turns around. Now, if you do happen to get a pick on Ishmael from Heidi, or maybe Rufus steps back far enough that, you know, the split soul from Iris hits Ishmael instead, then you end up with a good situation there as well. So let's watch this fight play out just a little bit. This is just one example. It's also worth mentioning that the skeleton standing in front of Ishmael is also a great opportunity to absorb damage. So there we go. Now we have skeletons behind Ishmael. This is taking the attention of a lot of the enemy team. Unfortunately, it's not taking the attention of Ishmael, but Morgan is one of the best tank heroes in the game, even though she's not a tank hero. Leveling up Morgan, I cannot say how important Morgan is in 2024. She's probably one of the most important heroes to have leveled up, have maxed out in 2024. And away we go. So this area of effect damage team on defense using Iris did break Martha's totem enough that Astaroth did die, but you can see that, you know, pretty high win rate against this style of team. Now, the third style of team that I'm going to mention here is one that uses just random other heroes, traditionally in the crowd control sense. Leon. Crowd control meaning something that controls your team via charm, stun, sleep, blind, any of those status effects that a hero can apply. That type of hero that you swap in and out is going to vary a lot depending on the style of the team build. Is it the same one with Rufus, Ishmael, Martha? Is there a Sebastian in there or not? It's going to really, really vary a lot. And that is going to be a discussion that's way too big. And obviously, guys, the team that I'm discussing here, the Morgan, Heidi, Iris core with Martha, obviously that's not going to work every single time. And there are going to be plenty of instances where you're gonna, and I can already see the comments down there in the comment section down below. Yeah, but what about this, Charlie? It instantly beats your team. I can't believe you suggest such a bad team. I get that a lot, and that's fine. But you got to remember these important things. Ishmael does physical damage. He targets the front line. Bring armor artifacts. Bring Martha to keep your tank up, and a way to distract Ishmael. Be it that Morgan skeletons, maybe crowd control, stuns and blinds of your own, whatever. But Ishmael can be easily defeated with those methods. And what I really like about this is most of these heroes you're going to have leveled up anyway. If you don't have Heidi leveled up, I highly recommend you do it. Iris is just one of the best damage dealers all around. You really want Martha for Osh. Astaroth is one of the best tanks. There's a lot of reasons why you want these heroes leveled up. So let me know in the comment section down below what hero you want me to analyze and break down, what hero you'd like me to counter. A lot of people are interested in me showing them how to counter Amira and Heidi. So if there's somebody else that I haven't thought of, please let me know. Don't forget that we are going to be back live streaming on Monday.